I do have a quick question because I think there is a big misconception people have when they're considering suing a family member. Are they actually suing the individual, or is there a different entity involved? And actually what you're saying here is a sister had to sue a sister, her family. And if you could just take a second to explain that.
Okay. So a lot of lawyers will tell their clients, oh, you're not suing your sister or your brother or your cousin. You're suing the insurance. You're suing the insurance. That's not true. My client had to sue her sister and her brother-in-law on behalf of her son. In the lawsuit caption, the paperwork that gets filed, right? The lawsuit papers that get filed, it says client suing as plaintiff, suing sister and brother and nephew as defendants. That's what it says in the paperwork or the caption of the case.
And explain why they would have to sue, because insurances have caps, correct?
Yes, I don't remember what the liability limits were in this homeowner's case, but the policy, the homeowner's insurance policy that was triggered by that lawsuit or that claim before we filed the lawsuit is what was in play. So you sue the people who did wrong. You sue the companies that did wrong. But you name the people, the wrongdoers, as the defendants. The insurance that's there in the background is there to indemnify the defendants. So that homeowner's policy basically was triggered by the fact that this negligent event of my child client getting his eyes shot out happening at the aunt and uncle's house. That event triggered the coverage. It was a negligent thing, an unsupervised accident that